Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you to our webcast covering PwC's 2024 Digital Trust Insight Survey with a regional perspective focusing on Central Eastern Europe. I'm truly excited for the opportunity to moderate this highly accomplished panel of business and security executives from our region. That said, I'd like to recognize that we have our work cut out. We have to work on gender diversity clearly. So in that regard, next year we'll do better. We're going to investigate the topic of cyber resilience being a core priority, putting security at the epicenter of innovation. My name is Peter Durjan, and I'm the CEE Cybersecurity and Privacy Leader at PwC, based here in Budapest, Hungary. I have been serving local and global companies across Europe, Middle East, and Africa for the past 5 years. And prior to that, spent 14 years in the United States, starting my career at Chevron in California in the early 2000s. Now, we are recording this webcast, so you can go back and listen to it at any time, and we'll send out an email with a link to the recording as well for registered participants. Now, let's turn our attention to our 6 panelists. I'm going to introduce everyone one by one. Martin Stepik is the Commercial Finance Director at Microsoft, responsible for CEE, Middle East, and Africa. Martin is a passionate finance professional who has served for Microsoft for more than a decade and has lived through the company revamp under Satya Nadella and Amy Hood. Constant change and investment agility have become guiding principles, as he is now responsible for the regions that I mentioned, so his remit is broader than Eastern Europe. And he's currently living day and night with AI, exploring its broad impact on all organizational and industry aspects, and how to create a market through the right balance of investments. So it is great to have you today with us, Martin.
Thank you, Peter. Happy to be here.
Next is Pavel Hajduk. Pavel is the Chief Information Security Officer at ČEZ, based in the Czech Republic, and he has spent his entire professional career in information and cybersecurity in the electric and power industry. He has more than 20 years of industry experience that we're looking to tap in during the panel discussion today. And since 2016, he's been the Chief Information Security Officer at ČEZ Group. He's also an avid coffee drinker, as most of us in IT, and a beer lover, which probably is also not a surprise given that he was born in Pilsen, the Czech city of breweries. So welcome, Pavel.
Hello to everyone. I'm here with my coffee as well.
Next is Lukasz Ślezak, and Lukasz is a Chief Security Officer at the Bank Millennium in Poland. And so as the Chief Security Officer, he's responsible for fraud risk management, cybersecurity, information security, business continuity, as well as corporate, that is physical security. And he also brings a pretty unique perspective in that he spent a considerable amount of time as a cybersecurity transformation leader and consultant with the Big Four, both PwC and EY in Poland. Additionally, he worked at the Danish National Laboratory and European Synchrotron Radiation Facility in France. So we're looking forward to your insights, Lukasz.
Hello, Peter. Thank you.
Thank you. Bogdan Costea is the Information Security Lead at ING Bank in Romania, and he's been working in this role for about 6 years. His background, however, is in industrial automation, and his experience is really tightly coupled with technology, but he brings a wealth of experience in business and IT audits, and I think that combination is just an important asset for someone in his role. He's also passionate about automation and the use of IoT devices in his everyday life. He enjoys traveling and hardly misses a Formula One race. Great to have you on the panel, Bogdan.
Hi, everyone. Great to be here and looking forward for the discussions.
Thank you. Michal Kilchik is the Chief Information Security Officer at Polpharma in Poland. And Michal has built security in a wide variety of environments, from government early in his career through advisory to financial organizations and industries. He's fascinated by the psychological aspect of feeling safe and building security in a people-friendly way. He's also a former developer and IT administrator, so he understands the perspectives of various groups, and that's really relevant, again, in finding the common language with the executive stakeholders. It's really good to have you, Michal. Looking forward to hearing from you.
Good day. I'm honored to be here, so I'm very glad for this discussion.
Thank you. Last but not least, my colleague Petr Spirik, who's a partner in PwC's CE Cybersecurity and Privacy Practice. He's based in Prague, Czech Republic. Now, Petr has changed roles between internal functions and business leading functions, as well as R&D functions several times. He was also a CISO twice, most recently for a global tech company. Within cyber, he's most passionate about managed services, incident response, and security operations. Outside of cyber and outside of day-to-day business, education, digital rights, and freedoms are key topics for him. And he is opposed to stereotypes, does not drink coffee, and is a cat person. Petr, welcome.
Thank you, Peter, and looking forward to speaking with everyone.
Thank you. Now, the survey this year is really packed with great insights again. So for the first few minutes, let me look at some of the results, and you can follow this along on the slides as well. First, let me talk about the survey itself. So it's indeed one of the longest running surveys in this space. It goes back to the late 90s, and I remember that my first involvement was in 2006 in Los Angeles, and we called it the Global Information Security Survey. But it has really broadened since then, includes a lot more business-related topics, and evolved into what we now call the Digital Trust Insight Survey. And we are really casting a pretty broad net with almost 4,000 participants globally, and that spans over more than 70 countries, as a matter of fact. Respondents are mostly business, technology, and security leaders, and professionals from the board. Think CEOs, C-level business and technology executives. Now, in our region, in Central Eastern Europe, there was a 38 to 62 split between tech and business leaders in terms of respondents. So that context, I think, will be useful. And they came from the Czech Republic, Slovakia, Poland, Hungary, Bulgaria, Romania, Serbia, Latvia, and the likes. A pretty good coverage across the region, representing different industries: energy, utilities and resources, financial services, industrial manufacturing and automation, retail and consumer, and the likes. In terms of revenue, 80% were under $1 billion, roughly 10% between 1 and 5 billion, and 5% above 5 million. So that's the size and the context for you. I think what's important is last year here at PwC, we created a playbook for C-level executives to really help them focus on the questions that they need to answer with their CISOs, with their chief information security officers. You can still find that playbook online, but we have updated that for 2024, and it's pretty likely that we will see some shifts. So let's discuss some of the major ones that are outlined in our report. So today, as you can see, we'll cover cybersecurity budgets, which are on the rise, the impact of Gen AI, simplification of cyber tools, the shift to platforms, cloud security, as well as the impact of regulation, which is very prominently featured in Europe now. So starting with the first one, budgets are up. The question is, what's driving this shift? Globally, more than 3/4, as you can see, almost 80% see that they will increase their expenditures in the next 12 months. Now, this figure is around 44% in the Czech Republic, about 52% in Poland, and quite a lot higher in the rest of Eastern Europe in terms of where we surveyed participants. Now, you could probably argue that with a lower relative maturity, we are still catching up, and that's fair. In comparison, between 75 to 85% of respondents from the Netherlands, Germany, and UK are looking to increase their budget, and about 5 to 10% will decrease it. Now, that's important because if you look at the dynamic regulatory landscape, the majority of Eastern European companies do expect increased compliance costs. That's globally 75%, and probably a slightly higher for us. Now, in Central Eastern Europe, the respondents, again, in our region, are really zooming in on 4 types of regulations that will help secure their organization's future. Roughly 37% focus on cyber risk management, which is mandatory. 35% operational resilience, business and operational resilience, and about a quarter Gen AI, and also harmonizing cybersecurity and data protection rules. So we'll talk about this and delve into this our panelists represent financial services, technology, pharma, and energy as well. So it's a pretty big spread. Now, managing talent remains an opportunity really globally and in our region as well. We're no different. We live in a human-led, technology-powered era. And the reality is that the job market is very hot, continues to be so. So retaining talent is just as important as hiring them in the first place. And so as a result, a quarter of our survey respondents are looking for ways to introduce outcome-based managed services in new areas as well. We'll discuss that shortly. So we talked about the human and the talent element. When it comes to technology, simplification and modernization is key. And you could argue that in Western Europe and North America, some of these trends have taken place, and those are the realities, and it's somewhat inevitable for us as well. But this year's survey shows that the modernization and optimization here in our region is the top cyber investment priority for 2020 year. Now, with the increasing budget, the C-suite challenge is not necessarily the lack of tools or lack of investment. It's more so how to spend it to reap the benefits of it. In Eastern Europe, 34% report that an integrated suite of cyber tech solution is already in place, and another roughly third plan to move on to it in the next 24 months. So that's a clear trend. Now, the vast majority of our respondents in CE have already migrated to the cloud. It's not so much a matter of when they will embrace it, but more so how do you operate in a multi-cloud, multi-vendor environment. And you know, with this reality, cloud attacks are some of the top cyber concerns that we've seen globally. What our report found, though, is that in our region, business email compromise, supply chain attacks, and attacks on the IT, actually non-IT infrastructure, IoT, OT, and devices also play a key role. To bring it all together, rising budgets are still limited, and evolving regulations will increase the cost. The shortage of talent, all of this, and the need to simplify technology will pave the way for accelerating the use of innovation. And 40% in our region actually say that they do plan to use Gen AI. I think all of our panelists have interesting insights on this. And the use of Gen AI is actually a bit higher in Poland, 50%. And a lot of this will land on the chief security officer's plate in terms of building guardrails. So that said, let's dive into the panel discussion. And let's start with the first topic. So cybersecurity is a boardroom priority, is what we are seeing. It's a boardroom imperative. Pavel, I'd like to engage you first to kick off this conversation and discussion. Everyone else can feel free to reflect. You are a very purpose-driven leader at a large organization which has to provide and maintain critical national infrastructure. Is cybersecurity a board-level imperative at CHAS? And if so, how has the board's treatment of this topic evolved recently?
Yeah. Thank you for this topic, and for us, definitely, answer is yes, it is true. Because for the energy companies like CHAS, security and safety of operation is something like a continuous priority, not only for the board members, but for all employees of our company and suppliers. And we have security, something like a part of our DNA. Of course, cybersecurity is something brand new in other kinds of securities, but for the board members, it's something like agenda which they understand. So we definitely need to improve and still build security knowledge on the field of cybersecurity for board members. We need to talk with them. We need to show them use cases and other stuff to be able to recognize all the risks and talk about it. But for me, it's pretty simple. We have no issues about it, and I think it's connected to our type of company. Maybe it's connected to our industry. Maybe lucky us, but yeah. Maybe it's the main part of my answer. But let's discuss it. Yeah.
No, and this is a tremendous accomplishment. I spent about 6 years in this in the energy industry and space. Would you mind just describing how diverse your business really is? Because you do quite a different things. So when it comes to getting the boards and the business's attention, it's not black and white either.
Yes, of course. And definitely we try to manage all the security requirements to the business goals. Like when we develop some business project, I'm trying to discuss very early with the business leader who lead this project about the security requirements and everything we need to be added to the business project. And then we don't need the separate budget for the cybersecurity because it's a part of the business goal. And it works very well from my perspective.
Great. Thank you, Pavel. And that was definitely a good perspective. And obviously in the industry that you represent, it's unique as well. Let's get another viewpoint. Michal, financial services, it represents the backbone of the country's economy. And so is cybersecurity a board level topic for you? And if so, at what frequency is it discussed? And how do you keep it relevant to business executives?
Well, actually, COVID did a lot of change in minding the security in the whole sector of pharmaceutical business, which means that, well, some times ago in the pharmacy, which is not very regulated area, right? Not like financial sector, not like telecoms or energy sector. Cybersecurity wasn't a priority a few years ago. It dramatically changed during those years due to COVID, which realized how important might be the supply of medicines for countries in epidemic situation. Due to geopolitical problems we have right now in CE, which also showed that pharmaceutical industries might be serious target for hackers. Many situations in other companies also triggered this alarm in heads of board members, right? They heard the stories about their family members, about their colleagues from other businesses, which was struck by ransomware. So they simply understand and believe that cybersecurity threats, it's a part of real life, actually. It's not only the science of the boys with the toys. I mean, the IT guys with the toys and hacker games. It's a part of reality right now, and it can be seen in budgets. It can be seen in spendings that organization from my sector, from pharmaceutical sector, are going to put in increasing the cybersecurity level. Of course, there are some regulations like NIS2, which also puts pressure for being secure. But actually, it's not only because of regulation. I can feel that it's also true understanding of real importance of this topic these days, because it's a part of reality.
Absolutely, and I guess protecting your intellectual property, making sure that manufacturing is not disrupted, all of those are really important. So it's not just an IT topic for you either. Thank you, Michal, for your insights. Now, each of you bring very different type of experience. Let's get yet another angle on this topic. Bogdan, as the Chief Information Security Officer, actually CISOs are often perceived to be quite technical, yet they have to be the bridge between business and technology in order to articulate, the business needs and how to secure the company. How does this work for you, and how are you able to bridge that gap to successfully and effectively communicate to the board?
Yeah, I would say that cybersecurity is definitely a board priority in the banking industry. We work in a highly regulated sector where we have lots and lots of regulations, not only on cyber, where you have NIS2, DORA, Cyber Resilience Act, but it is also in Know Your Customers and stuff like this. And I would find that it's somewhat easier in a highly regulated environment to go and to put this angle on as well. But at the same time, banking industry is a business of trust. You are entrusted with the customer money, and it's the board priority, and it's the first it's first on their mind to protect that that trust of the customers. At the same time, how do we do it? It's through knowledge of the business. How do you embed cybersecurity in the products you develop? How do you embed into the mobile banking apps? How do you provide the services, instant payments, to be seamless for the customer? They don't feel it, but at the same time to be secure. But also, how do you respond in case the customer has a complaint or has a trouble situation? So you start this from the beginning. You do it in each step of the way of the development lifecycle, but you also monitor on patterns, on stuff like this. So it is a tough topic, and it's a board priority, definitely.
Okay, sounds good. Secure by design. Thank you, Bogdan. Appreciate your reflections. Now, Martin, you're representing business executives on the panel, and you do have a regional remit. We have seen in the survey globally and in EMEA, as well as in our region, that budgets are on the rise. But in a highly cost-conscious world that we are living in, this might come as a surprise to some. What is your feeling on the regional differences that the survey has highlighted, and what's driving the increased commitment to spend in your experience, Martin?
Yeah, so first of all, what I need to say is that cybercrime has become a tremendous business. So our estimates are showing that by 2025, the profit generated by cybercrime business is going to be roughly $10 trillion around the world. So that's a huge amount of money that are going to be leaked from the system into the parts that could be reinvested into the growth of the business. So that's about the urgency. Now, what we also observe that basically cybercrime has become a service provided by some companies. We call it cybercrime as a service, okay? And you can actually buy some forms of the attacks quite easily and quite cheaply, which is actually a huge threat. So we have companies that are now established and dedicated just to perform certain actions, and you can pay them at scale, which is very convenient to those who are dealing with cybercrime. So that raises the urgency for every business stakeholder to look at this with an alert and make sure that there is a zero trust policy in place. And as my predecessor speaker said, it's part of the product, it's part of the company DNA. Now, on the regional differences, look, we see it in many cases quite connected to regulation, where we sometimes see regulation not firm enough to force companies to put this at a high standard. And there is a perception attached to it as well, where some organizations are still looking more into their own internal hardware and equipment and believe that, hey, by developing their own solutions, they are going to be able to fight these cybersecurity risks at scale, versus cloud providers being much more strong in testing their systems and catching the signal. So we see huge differences. It's connected to perception. It's connected to regulation as well.
Thank you. Clearly, you're very fluent in this topic, and I think that's the level of fluency we'd like our business executives to have. Thank you for your perspective. Lukasz, you have extensive experience both in industry and consulting. What is your view on the increased commitment to spending that we are seeing? Lukasz, can you hear us?
I'm sorry. Yes, I'm here. So in Poland, we've started the spending when the war has begun. Yeah. And to be honest, we've started it 3 months before the war has begun. And because my boss, so president of the board, is Portuguese. And he asked me, Łukasz, we were prepared for the COVID and we've spent so many hours to deal with it. So what's the next risk? And I had one day to think about it. And I thought that there's going to be a war. So we've started with the blackout and brownout preparation. But 6 months later, my colleagues from Portugal asked me, Łukasz, what is the reason that you've started the preparation before the war? There was no reason that the war will begin. Yeah? So that's the completely difference between Eastern and Western Europe, because Portuguese is like on the safe place, let's say. Yeah. And we've spent like 6 months to prepare some plans to buy a lot of liters of gasoline and to change the chillers and so on. And as I told you a few days ago, we are like a small gas station now.
Yeah. No, thank you for the perspective. Obviously, preparedness and crisis management. If I look at your portfolio, that's really broad as a CSO. So thinking that way is important. Now, that completes our conversation around the board and the budget. And let's move back a little bit to the regulatory compliance as well. Some of you already mentioned DORA and NIS2 and the Cyber Resilience Act, which are driving increased level of transparency around incidents, cyber practices, all of which requires the board's attention. Coming back to you, Bogdan, as the local information security lead at ING, which is a multinational bank, there's simply no escaping the topic of regulatory compliance for you. So if you had to name one that has a great potential, in your opinion, to help secure the broader ecosystem of the company that you're in, which one would that be and why?
For the financial sector, it will be DORA, Digital Operational Resilience Act. It will change the landscape. So it will go into force on 17th of January, 2025. But it will change not only the banking sector to be more resilient. It will change the businesses that provide services, that provide IT&C services for the banks. So they will need to be prepared as well for DORA. If you are not thinking about DORA, if you are not thinking how it impacts you, and you are providing a service to a financial institution, you should do it. Banks are already in the game, are looking at their processes, are looking at how to integrate, how to do end-to-end testing, how to better respond to incidents, how to escalate those incidents to the regulators to be more publicly available and to be more transparent in this respect, but are looking also how to deal with the providers. And 2024 I think it's going to be the year for the DORA in the financial sector. And of course, we have NIS2, which comes after NIS1, it will with additional challenges as well. And for the financial area, lots and lots of pen tests, security tests, and stuff like this. Challenging year ahead, 2024.
Will keep us all busy. No, I agree. And last week, 2 weeks ago, our EMEA cyber leaders got together for a strategy session in Milan, and we had a panel of cyber executives from the FS industry, and they shared similar sentiments to what you just mentioned right now. Now, let's get a different viewpoint. Pavel, you are in the electricity energy industry. How significant is this space, again, regulatory compliance, in the big scheme of what's driving your program of work? And where has it driven the most activity in your industry?
Yeah, for our industry, definitely NIS2 is the topic we need to manage. And especially for the critical infrastructure, it's not about something brand new, and it's the common case, and we are pretty ready for the new regulation. But it's definitely a game changer for the smallest subsidiary companies in our group, which are not regulated yet. And we have been working on the major group-wide program to implement NIS2 more than 1 year, because in these small companies, there are definitely lack of sources, lack of everything, and we need to change all the management system. And we are looking definitely for the new stuff, for the managed services and other cases, how to do it. And maybe a good question is why we need to regulate these small companies. But the rule of NIS2 is not only the business sector, but very important is the economical interconnection of these entities with, let's say, the big mother company. And it's our case, and we need to do it this way. So it will be definitely a topic for next few years. And I'm personally wonder myself whatever this will actually raise the level of cybersecurity in Europe, like this act would force. So I'm a little bit afraid that the first few years we will just be fighting each other for resources and this stuff. But yeah, we will see. We will see.
Absolutely. And I agree that the number of industries or sectors has been expanding really since 2018 under NIS2. Now you have retail and consumer coming under the umbrella as well, actual industries where maybe cyber wasn't that big of a priority, but I think overall the security hygiene should be higher. Thank you for your insights. Now, Petr, as a leader with responsibilities both locally in the Czech Republic, at the CE level and at the EMEA level, could you reflect on what you just heard from Bogdan and Pavel, and maybe share your perspective on the regulatory landscape?
So I think the regulatory landscape, and especially the NIS2, because it's broader than DORA, is going to play a bigger role. What I want to reflect on is that when we had this discussion within a community of our CISOs, our CISO forum locally in the Czech Republic about 6 months ago, and we asked these questions, the overarching sentiment in the room was, we are over-regulated, it is too much, and we will drown in the paperwork. That was about 6 months ago, maybe 8, and to some extent I understand this sentiment, but what I see as like the evolution of this is that the CISOs, or like the security leaders in general, are now using this as the opportunity to do the right thing that they always wanted to do, but didn't get the support or buy-in or simply budget and resources dedicated to the topic. And now, with the regulation being the hammer to the nail of the problem, it is a tool. And because it's mandatory, and because the regulations, especially NIS2, is like increasing the personal and individual responsibility of the board members and their accountability, we see more of a change happening in how companies are prioritizing. And our survey actually showed that as well in the increase of the budget. So I would say these regulations, I would need to find yet a first person who will love them, but everyone is more or less coming to terms with these regulations and how to use them for good, which I think is the intended outcome. So I'm looking forward to, similar to what Pavel said, whether the net outcome will be more secure society, but I hope so.
No, thank you. And I think Western Europe, again, is an early adopter compared to our region, but we are closing the gap. Now, as CISOs, you're asked to do more. You have more budget as well, more tools. We talked about simplification and modernization and really a trend towards integrated tech platforms. So let's dive into that a little bit, and let's get your perspective, Martin, because Microsoft has become one of the largest, if not the largest, security vendors globally over the past few years. As an executive of the company, surely you must be seeing this as a trend, rationalizing tech, reducing the overall number of technologies, moving to the cloud, being more strategic about the choices, how the pieces fit together. And it's not just supporting zero trust, but having a seamless user experience. I think one of you mentioned that earlier. Is this real, Martin?
Oh, absolutely, Peter. And you know, a slightly biased being part of Microsoft for quite some time. And look, we definitely see security as one of key pillars of our success and business expansion. We see it as a feedback from the customers that more and more they're asking for the integrated end-to-end solutions that are able to cover a wide range of applications and services they are using. It starts with identity, goes through threat protection, information protection, or the cloud services that they are using. So definitely we see the demand, and it's one of the key value props of Microsoft to be able to provide such services. Now, by the way, few data points, because I've been talking to my colleagues about it. So we have roughly 1.2 billion PCs, servers, and IoT devices that run Windows, plus hundreds of millions iOS, Linux, or other IoT endpoints that are connected to our services. We have more than 600 billion identity transactions per month that we are scanning. And so that's the huge scale that companies like Microsoft can provide in helping customers with end-to-end integration and with our experience in fighting the cybercrime.
Thank you. That's very interesting. In the US around 2018, we began to see that this is taking shape. And I think it's taken a few years here in Europe, Western or Eastern, but I think that's a vision that many of us are buying into. thank you for that angle. Let's build on that. So Mikhail, now again, you have a pharmaceutical background, but I think you're a technology information security officer at Citibank. Got it confused a few minutes ago with the financial services industry, but you actually have a lot of experience. And at Citibank, I think you had an EMEA remit. And prior to the patent office, which was one of the most digitized government agencies at the time. As a technologist, what is your view on this?
From all the organization you mentioned, I have actually one conclusion. The integration of the system might be a nightmare. So the trend we see when we are more into one stack of technology provided by one big company, for example, Microsoft, solves many problems with integration. It sometimes ensures the customer, the board, that we won't struggle with implementation of the new systems, right? Because somebody already thought about it, including this into the platform. On the other hand, I must say that it's tremendous job from for example, Microsoft planning the licensing, because many times if you have some package of licenses, it's always better to utilize any other products you're already paying for than looking for any other from outside the portfolio. But I believe that most reason for having this, for fueling this trend, is rather avoiding the risk of problems when the integration of systems, because everybody is saying that their systems are great, but actually when you have a situation when you got to deal with two providers of the technology and discuss between them whose fault is that it doesn't communicate to each other, it's problem for the customer rather than for any of those suppliers. If you choose one technology, one provider, you have this problem a little bit easier, right? And what is also interesting, and I think it's also impactful, is that behind the technology, there's a specific companies that are implementing on the ground. Usually there are people who did some projects for you already and they know your company. That's also makes new investments, new projects easier. When you need to switch to other companies, other technologies, you're just buying another portion of risk that might be a success, but it also might turn to be a nightmare. So I fully agree that the trend is, and I believe that it would be going on. But the main reason from my perspective is, of course, avoiding the risk of integration between the projects and lowering the risk of implementation. Economical effectiveness, well, it depends on dealing with the model of licensing and cash, actually. But still, we have other risks which are good to be avoided, and I believe that's the reason for this trend to be keeping on.
No, thank you, and I feel like a lot that you mentioned could take us into the cloud conversation. But before we do, Lukasz, if you could reflect on some of what you heard from Mikhail, because I know that when we last talked, you brought up a couple of approaches to working with technology vendors. Could you weigh in on this a little bit? I think we might have you on mute, Lukasz. At least I can't hear you just yet.
Sorry, Peter, again.
Okay.
So it's about the standardization. So which problem I have? Because I have some on-prem solutions and I have cloud solutions. And some of them are Microsoft, actually. And I need to have one console, and it's not going to happen, to be honest. Which problem I have? First problem I have is that, for example, anti-malware architecture. I can have one console, but it means I have one vendor. Maybe it's not very good solution. The second problem is I have on-prem solution and I have some cloud solution, and still I don't have one console. So I need extra FTEs. To make it work, and it's the problem. And the other problem is that I can use some cloud agnostic or multi-cloud solution, and that's another console. So it's not a very easy topic for me.
No, absolutely. That is fair, I think, at least for the time being. And thank you for sharing that, the challenge or the opportunity with a positive spin on it. Petter, you've had several roles, internal, external. You were a CISO a couple of times at a global company, now serving clients. Can you share your learnings around this?
So I think absolutely what has been already said is true. The biggest downfall that I see with technology implementation is really the actual execution and integration of the tools. It has been long time ago where I have seen a major technology implementation where it was with a straight face presented in a way it will be 4-year project, and first 2 years our security will be worse because of this project, and then we will break even. That's no longer an option for, I would say, any business. And the sprawl of the technology solutions has become over the years, I would say, overwhelming for both the security or IT organizations, and in the end, for the business itself. There is a reason why very often the companies are buying expensive laptops for their people, for their employees, only to be crawling under the load of 10, 12, 18 agents installed on the machine. So the user experience and the productivity of the people is suffering as well. I think these practical reasons are basically what drives the adoption of and consolidation of the technology platforms and tools, simply because the benefit of maybe having best of breed for every single area of security are overshadowed by the simplicity and easy to operate. Because in the end, and that's my strong belief for years, good security starts with good and efficient security operations. If you cannot achieve that, then everything else is burdened by this from the beginning.
Thank you. Thank you for your reflections. And I think what you're also saying is we cannot really, a lot of that you got into was broader than just what we talked about, simplification, modernization, platform. And a lot of these platforms are actually in the cloud as well. So let's use that as a segue into that conversation. Thank you, Petter. Pavel, you mentioned when we talked that cloud migration obviously is no longer an if or even a when. It's more around the business critical systems such as ERP, SAP. For them, the train has long left the station, moving to the cloud. Does cloud security being one of the key threats in terms of what we are seeing surprise you? And why do you think that is? Personally, what are the greatest threats that you are seeing, and where should the investment go? So again, cloud clearly is going to be important. Why? And what are the other threats, maybe to you, your organization, and industry that are relevant?
Yeah. This is a very important topic to discuss, because sometimes we could hear that cloud is the answer for everything, and I disagree with it. And it's case by case when we need to recognize which case is really suitable for the cloud solution and which not. And definitely for the largest information system, like you mentioned, sometimes when we discuss with the vendors and they show us the future roadmap of their products, and the on-prem variant ends in the near future, sometimes it's very stressful for us, because we have very small time to rebuild our IT strategy, sometimes rebuild the business process and implement to another solution, or follow the line and go to the cloud. But it definitely brings us the new risks, like we have all our data sometimes about the critical infrastructure somewhere in cloud provider. It could be regulated more or less. Of course, we have to go for our data and functions through the internet. It's a case. Sometimes it's suitable. Sometimes it's a really big risk for us. So it's not the ideal situation. And typically we try to keep very conservative way about on-prem solution, and we still prefer on-prem solutions for the business critical systems. But we still, or more and more, we use cloud services for new cases, for development, for some time isolated business goals, or definitely use of cloud looks very good for the smallest companies, like as I mentioned, our subsidiaries, when we need to do unique IT support for them and ensure or enforce some security baseline for them. I think the cloud deployment is perfect way how to do it very quickly, very effectively, and let's say low cost. So cloud could be good or bad, but for us it's case by case, definitely.
No, you're right, and it's somewhat industry specific as well, and also regionally it could vary. Thank you for that perspective, Pavel. Martin, your remit is across CEE, Middle East, and Africa. In terms of cloud adoption, what are some of the differences that you see between these regions?
Look, we see quite a steep rise of cloud services in Middle East. Middle East is now trying to get a lot of edge through technology and utilizing the advanced cloud services. So that's where part of our focus is, and how we enable growth of those customers in Middle East, as they are willing to grow fast and invest and innovate through the technology. And look, overall, I would say the adoption goes steadily up. So there is, increased cloud services share across all of our markets. I think right now, if we look at portfolio of our services, there is probably between 70 to 80% share of cloud services on our sales in general. And this varies country by country, but the trend is clear. So we see a strong adoption. We firmly believe that security of cloud services is higher versus on-prem solutions. And we are seeing very positive feedback from our customers as well.
Thank you. And I know in the Middle East, data residency is important when it comes to moving to the cloud, whether it's private or public or a hybrid. Obviously, it's shades of gray, not as simple. Thank you for that reflection, Mark. Now let's switch gears again. We talked about tools and simplifications, and Lukasz, you mentioned different consoles, needing to have more FTEs to support this. And we've seen universally that there's a talent scarcity and challenge here. So let's talk about this a little bit, how to tackle this, and then also what we are seeing of many companies looking at outcome-based managed services. Peter, you've been leading our managed security services space across Europe, Middle East, and Africa and PwC. So what is your perspective on how organizations stay competitive in the market to attract key talent while looking to strike the balance between in and outsourcing?
So to me, this is like a super interesting topic, obviously, for many years. And there is a lot of differences between companies, but also between countries in the EMEA region. The talent shortage is hitting, I would say, everyone. No surprises that the most in demand and the most tough to find are the middle ground, middle experienced people, because you can get juniors, and there are a lot of companies, luckily, doing a lot of upskilling and new joiner program into the security, both internally or with universities. And for like the senior experts, there is a market with them, but it's like the workforce in the middle of the pack that's in the highest scarce demand. And what I see from like the managed services, because this is one of the answers to this problem, is super diverse strategic perspective, how companies are approaching that. And we have done internal research on this topic as well. And basically what we found out that there are different reasons. Some companies are running to managed services to simply reduce costs. Others are to address their talent shortage, exactly as you said. But others are also using this to gain competitive advantage, basically saying, I am running retail, or I'm running transportation or commercial business. I'm not running a security shop. So I want to get the edge on the market by outsourcing this as a full managed service. And the most interesting was when we did like the cut on how these companies perform, whether compared to what type of managed services they are using. And basically the bottom quintile of the performance of the companies, they're focusing on the managed services exactly just to reduce cost, body shopping, BPO type of managed services, while the top quintile of the companies, based on their performance in their markets, they're using the managed services to really outcome delivered and business advantage gaining momentum. And to me, this was like really sharp difference. And all of that is like working with the different delivery models and different ways how people and companies interact with each other. But the clear delineation was very interesting to me.
Thank you. Good insights. And this is a good reminder, based on the data points that you mentioned. I'd like to encourage the audience to post questions. I think we're a bit behind. So what we might do is we'll definitely, if you don't get to answering your questions, we'll be sending an email to registered participants with our answers as well. So I encourage you to post them. Now, in the interest of time, we might need shorter responses, but if we stay with this for a little bit, Lukáš, as a security leader at Bank Millennium, spent over a decade in consulting. When it comes to talent shortage, balance with managed services, what's your point of view on this? And you might be on mute. Yeah, I think we still can't hear you.
Third time, sorry. Peter, the money is not the answer, and it should be. Money talks, no way. Guys now wants to work in the home, hybrid works. But it means it's no matter for them if they work for Bank Millennium or for another bank. So that's the problem for me, because, they spend like, 1.5 hours to go to the bank to be on-prem, and they can work during this time. And it's the problem for me because they do not, they are not attached to the bank, to the brand.
The loyalty.
Yeah. And so that's the problem. And that's the problem because money doesn't talk now.
And okay, look, Bogdan, we talked about this, what Lukáš is bringing up as well, and we have this challenge as well. You mentioned, Bogdan, that finding talent is a real challenge, finding the right mindset, upskilling them, and then making it stick at the end so that they want to work for your company. You heard some of the challenges that Lukáš mentioned. Anything you can share, elaborate on?
Yeah, for sure. Indeed, it's a tough market. What we did, it's take juniors, train them, put them to the ropes, but train them in a broader environment. And yet again, as with anything in tech, the work environment is very important as well. If you put somebody, you need to be here 9 to 5, it will be 9 to 5, but it will not stick around, or it will find something else. So it's a tough balance, but you see this everywhere in the tech area. And what I found out that works throughout the years, it's exposing the people not only to the security world, not keeping them tied to the security, but exposing them to what's the value of their work, what is that they bring in, and to what's the to the organization. And they have discussions not only with their peers from the tech side, with the DevOps community, but also with the business. So here they have a sense of purpose. That's how we manage to retain people. And in time, very few people left, and they left for the next challenge. So, so not just an opportunity arose, but it was their next challenge, their next natural evolution. And I'm really happy to see this evolution in the people as well, because yes, we're a bank, we work with customers, but the same way we treat our customers, we treat our employees as well. So it's a priority for us, and it's not always money. People don't stick around always for the money, but also the perks and the work environment as well.
Agree. So people are our key assets, and you mentioned the sense of belonging and community, that trust and loyalty. Now, thank you for your insights, gentlemen, on this important topic. Again, human-led, technology-powered. That's the world we're living in. Now, probably this is also a good segue into our last topic, which is innovation. And innovation, which is often a catalyst to optimizing security functions and maybe overcoming some of the talent shortage that you mentioned as well. So let's dig a little deeper in this, because when we talk about innovation, and especially Gen AI nowadays, it is real. It's not just a buzzword, and a lot of it may be landing on your plate. Responsible AI, building guardrails, dealing with new threats, potentially detecting existing threats in a more sophisticated way, optimizing security functions, overcoming the talent shortage, and decreasing cost. All key topics. Mikhail, coming back to you as a technologist, again, I keep calling you that, hope you don't mind. It'd be great to get your input here. The survey highlighted that in top performing companies, the CISOs are right at the epicenter of innovation, being stewards of digital trust and priming the organization for growth. It's one of your purpose and role. Well, is this a statement that you buy into? How do you see this in the context of your role and innovation and embracing innovation?
Well, at the end of the day, I would say that's true, but maybe not in this very common way, because it's very difficult to be innovative, providing the security. Security, apart from digitalization, is not sexy and not easy, right? Digitalization makes you work less and work smarter and work easier, right? Not necessarily that's something you can say about bringing security, but you may be innovative as a security guy, providing business with the solution at the beginning of the idea, how to build it with having security embedded into idea, into product, into service you are creating as an innovative one, to limit the cost of innovation and to be on the safe side in terms of keeping this trust you are talking about, right? Because many ideas, brilliant ideas of innovations, fall when they have a security issue. They were still innovative, but people didn't trust them anymore. So if you have a CISO in the epicenter of this idea, of this program of innovation, you have somebody who will keep the ideas being safe, not necessarily killing them. And I think that's the most of the role that CISO can bring into innovation of organization. Of course, apart from those security shops where the security is a core product, of course. Yeah. But from the business perspective, I would say that bringing environment for safe ideas, safe innovation with properly embedded security is what the CISO can do best.
Okay, thank you. And I know you also mentioned, aside from companies where security is their core product, but I'm not going to invoke Martin here from Microsoft. Instead, Pavel, you mentioned that you recently attended a global event focusing on Gen AI and innovation. And based on what Mikhail just mentioned, how do we safely enable this? What are some of the inspirations that you've drawn from that conference? Now, I'm conscious of time, so if you could succinctly summarize it, that would be fantastic.
Yeah. From my perspective, definitely, I agree with what was mentioned, and our job, like as a CISO, is to understand, support, and protect our business. Sometimes against its will, but it's other case. What I would like to mention, I have a very nice experience a few months ago to see security copilot of one very big company, and it's nice to see that everything orchestrates and works well together, and we can reach very nice functions together based on AI on the field of cybersecurity as well on business side. So I'm really open to this topic for the future, and I hope it will be secure and benefit for us.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I think we have to be open. We don't have a choice here, and I think the upside is big. Now, unfortunately, we will not have time to answer questions that may have been posted live, but we will send out an email. And just to wrap things up here, wrap up the panel discussion, and soon the year as well, 2023, I'd like to ask you, Petr, just to spend a minute on seeing around the corner to reflect on how the year 2024 might play out from a cybersecurity perspective. If you could do that succinctly, that'd be great.
Sure. I'm not sure if I will end on the optimist note, because what I see is the budgets and the attention of the board and C-level to the security is increasing, which is a good thing. At the same time, we are seeing an economic challenges across the whole Europe and across the CE region. And what I would think will differentiate the successful from the stressed out CISO in the 2024 is whether your roadmap for security improvement and implementation can be split into milestones that will bring value immediately in the short term, or whether you are planning 6-year-long transformation journey. I would be concerned as a CISO, if I would be in that role, planning a long-term transformation project with benefits being realized after a year or two. I will be concerned at the risk that the business will take a decision. Business environment is winding down. We need to cut the unnecessary spend, and security being the victim here once again. It might be my pessimistic nature. It might be like the burn from past experiences or from 2008 and the financial crisis. But I would strongly encourage everyone to plan for the success in a way. If my project is stopped or definanced after 50%, will I end up empty-handed, or will I be better because I have reached something? That would be, I would say, my advice and what I can see for the successful security programs and CISOs in 2024.
Thank you again. So agility and benefit realization relatively short term in that span of 12 months will be key. Thank you for that. And I'd like to thank all of our panelists for taking time out of their busy schedule, and for everyone who actually came to listen to our webcast, and everyone who contributed to making it really happen. And so all these insights show the importance of continuous discussion of cybersecurity in the boardroom, why that's important. So again, this session will be recorded and shared with you, so you can review this, and we'll post answers to the questions as well. Thank you so much for your time. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all.